At 22, I finally tied the knot with my longtime boyfriend Alex, whom I had been dating for about 6 years. My whole family attended the wedding, including my stepsister Melissa. Our parents merged families when I was 10 and she was 9. At first, we got along well and considered each other friends. But everything changed when in high school, we ended up in the same class and both fell for our classmate Max. We agreed not to flirt with him to avoid ruining our relationship. However, Melissa broke the promise and openly flirted with Max. At graduation, she even confessed her feelings to him and invited him to the prom. But Max rejected her, saying he had long had feelings for me. After that, he and I started dating, and I stopped talking to Melissa. After that incident at school, Melissa and I went our separate ways. In college, we studied in different cities, and I was glad for it. I didn't want to encounter her after her betrayal. Alex and I stayed together, our feelings only growing stronger. After college, I immediately got a job, and Melissa also got herself a boyfriend. When we met at family gatherings, we only politely greeted each other, but avoided any personal conversations. The past remained in the past, I thought. However, this illusion was shattered last year when Melissa announced her engagement. When we met, she friendly invited me to her wedding. I agreed, thinking we were adults now and could smooth over past disagreements. But at the ceremony, she made me just a guest, although in childhood, we dreamed of being each other's bridesmaids. Since then, we started talking again, and Melissa even became polite to me because of Alex. When a couple of months later Alex proposed to me, she seemed to take it normally and congratulated me. However, a week before our wedding, Melissa made a desperate attempt to ruin everything. Our families were staying at a country hotel where the ceremony was to take place. On the wedding day, as I was putting on the finishing touches, Melissa suddenly took me aside. She began to tell an incredible story, claiming that Alex had contacted her in advance and asked her to come early to run away from the wedding with her. Supposedly, he no longer loved me, but was in love with her, Melissa, and they had secretly been corresponding all this time. Of course, I immediately realized it was a blatant lie. Alex is straightforward and honest. He would never do such a thing behind my back. Melissa cynically decided to take advantage of her marriage and my feelings for Alex to ruin everything. So I immediately called her husband and relayed the whole crazy story to him on speakerphone. The poor guy was shocked and rushed to the hotel to find out what was going on. Melissa immediately deflated and left, realizing her nasty plan had failed. After that incident, our wedding ceremony went smoothly, and Melissa didn't even try to disrupt it. Perhaps she was too busy sorting things out with her enraged husband. Our parents asked why she wasn't there, but I decided not to tell the truth. I didn't want to darken our happy day. A week later, Alex and I were already enjoying our honeymoon when suddenly our parents informed us that Melissa was getting a divorce. It turned out her husband couldn't forgive her for trying to ruin our marriage because of her unresolved feelings for Alex. It was the last straw for him. Unexpectedly, our parents blamed me for ruining my sister's marriage. They said I shouldn't have involved her husband when she sabotaged the wedding, and now I owe Melissa an apology. But how can I apologize to someone who deliberately tried to break up my family? Alex is fully on my side. He believes Melissa ruined everything herself, and I only defended our marriage. Some friends also condemn me, but most support me. In any case, I refuse to apologize. Melissa crossed the line long ago. If family can't understand that, I'll have to distance myself from them for a while. I'm too happy with Alex to let her schemes ruin everything. After returning from our honeymoon, the situation only worsened. My parents continued to insist that I apologize to Melissa, as her husband filed for divorce because of my interference. In their opinion, I should have managed without involving him. But I remained steadfast. Melissa was the one who first tried to break up my marriage by spreading a terrible lie about Alex. Didn't I have the right to give her a fitting response? Besides, her ex-husband heard everything himself and drew his own conclusions. I merely provided him with the opportunity. My parents didn't want to listen to anything and eventually cut off contact with me. My mom even unfriended me on social media, as if I were a stranger. This deeply saddened me. I understand that Melissa is her daughter, But how could she so vehemently take her side after such betrayal? Partly, I blame myself. Perhaps I shouldn't have distanced myself from my family after that old falling out in school because of Alex. If we had stayed in constant communication, Melissa wouldn't have envied me so much. But at the same time, she deliberately wanted to ruin my happiness. So what excuses could there be? Friends also divided. Some supported me, others remained neutral, and some even sided with Melissa. They said I was too harsh, provoking her divorce. But didn't she have a choice not to lie and not to try to break up my marriage? Fortunately, Alex is fully on my side and helps me get through this difficult period. It seemed like this situation had reached a deadlock. My parents continued to ignore my calls. Most friends turned away, and Melissa rejoiced, living with her parents and completely alienating them from me. But then, a couple of weeks later, there was an incredible turn of events. Mom unexpectedly sent me a message and invited me to dinner to discuss everything and apologize. It turned out that living with Melissa under one roof had become unbearable. She constantly badmouthed me and then started picking fights with our stepfather. At some point, our parents realized that she deliberately orchestrated everything to drive away Alex and break up our marriage. Her tantrums about unrequited love were just a well-played act. Understanding how selfish and immoral their daughter had become, they kicked her out of the house. I was shocked when Mom told me everything over dinner, inviting Alex to be present. They realized they had been too harsh in condemning me and begged for forgiveness. Our stepfather even cried and confessed that they had raised Melissa in such a way that she thought of herself as the center of the universe. I was relieved to reunite with my family after so many weeks of estrangement. I was overwhelmed with emotions, but I was grateful that Alex had supported me all this time and was there for me. He convinced me to forgive my parents since they acknowledged their mistake. Moreover, shocking details about Melissa came to light. It turns out she deliberately got pregnant to keep her husband after the divorce. But he wasn't going to put up with her crazy antics. Now our parents are very worried about the grandchild. They don't know what Melissa might do in her current abnormal state. They fear she might get rid of the baby if she seeks revenge in such a twisted way. So they beg me to try to reason with and sober her up before it's too late. The news of Melissa's pregnancy came as a shock to me. So while she was trying to break up Alex's and my marriage, she was already in the early stages? This put her actions in an even more horrifying light. According to my parents, Melissa hoped that if the divorce did happen, the child would keep her husband by her side. However, her ex-husband had no illusions. He understood that she got pregnant deliberately, and this only solidified his decision. Now Melissa was left alone with frightening intentions. Mom cried and begged me to talk to my sister, to reason with her. They were afraid that in her painful, selfish state, Melissa might do something irreparable to herself or the baby. Our stepfather joined in with pleas. They were deathly pale with horror at such a prospect. I tried to convince them to seek professional psychological help for Melissa. In her current state, she clearly could harm herself or the baby. But the parents rejected it, saying she would never go to specialists after such humiliation. In the end, Alex convinced me to try talking to Melissa myself. He said I was the only one who could reach her wounded soul right now. I was grateful for his support because the thought of seeing my sister again after everything that had happened terrified me. A couple of days later, I mustered the courage to visit Melissa. She had rented an apartment not far from our parents. When she opened the door, she looked haggard and lost. Her small belly was barely noticeable under her oversized robe. Melissa was astonished by my visit, as we hadn't spoken since that fateful incident at the wedding. Seeing Melissa in such a subdued and lost state, I felt pity despite all the pain she had caused. Seeing her small belly, I realized I needed to tread very delicately and cautiously. "Melissa, can I come in? We need to talk," I said gently. She reluctantly stepped aside, letting me into the apartment. Disorder reigned everywhere, creating the impression that she had let not only her living space, but also her life slide. Sitting on the couch, I decided to get straight to the point. "Melissa, our parents are very concerned about your condition and state. They're afraid that you might harm yourself or the baby." At the last words, she clasped her stomach with her hands in a protective gesture. Horror flashed in her eyes. No, I would never." This baby is all I have left." She burst into tears. I hugged my sister, giving her a chance to cry it out. Gradually, she calmed down and started speaking herself. "You're right, my life is ruined. I lost the love of my life because of my anger and selfishness. But this child, it's my last chance to make things right. I feel so guilty towards you, towards Alex. If only we could turn back time." Tears streamed from her eyes again. I held Melissa tighter, feeling her body shake with sobs. There was sincere remorse in her words. Maybe this baby would help her get on the right path? "Listen, I'll help you. We'll all help me, Alex, our parents. But you have to change. Start a new life for the sake of your child. Forget all the grudges and envy. Become a good mother." Melissa nodded, wiping away her tears. For the first time in a long while, a glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes. After our emotional conversation with Melissa, about a month passed. I visited her regularly, helping her prepare for childbirth and her new life as a single mother. At first, it wasn't easy for her to let go of past grievances and jealousy toward me. Melissa still caught herself thinking that things could have been different if she had married Alex. But I tried to gently nip such thoughts in the bud, reminding her that a new stage of life awaited her. Our parents also actively supported Melissa, both morally and materially, despite past quarrels. They rekindled their relationship with their daughter, realizing they had almost lost her due to stubbornness and blind faith in her integrity. Our stepfather even turned to me for advice on how best to reach Melissa so that she would accept their help. A couple of times, I also invited my sister to our home with Alex. He behaved politely, avoiding any reproaches, and it helped Melissa relax. On those evenings, she managed to momentarily distract herself from distressing thoughts and simply chat with me like before all these terrible events. Our parents admitted that they were very happy to see me trying to reconcile with my sister again. They believed it could play an important role in Melissa's healing. With each passing day, she became calmer and more balanced, no longer bringing up the past voluntarily. However, 2 weeks before the expected delivery date, there was a new sharp turn of events. I went to Melissa's place as usual to help with the final preparations for the baby's arrival. But when I unlocked the door, I found no one inside, and things were scattered around. Shocked, I started calling Melissa's parents and Alex to find out if they knew where Melissa was. They were just as puzzled as I was. The worst fears were expressed that she might have done something reckless, disappearing like this. After a couple of hours of anxious waiting and searching, Melissa finally showed up. She didn't answer calls, so we literally caught her on the street nearby. Giving me a hostile look, she hissed, "Mind your own business. I'm leaving you all forever." It turned out that Melissa had gathered the most necessary things and rented a room in a rundown shelter. She believed that we had humanized her against her will, forcing her to give up thoughts of revenge and reconcile with the loss of Alex. "You want to take even my hatred away from me, but it's all I have left," Melissa screamed through tears. I was stunned by her words. So were all our attempts to help her get through the divorce and accept a new life in vain? Hadn't her emotional wounds healed at all during this time? Melissa was simply planning to run away, to hide from us with her baby. She decided that she should raise him in an atmosphere of pain and hatred so that those feelings would never leave her. Only in this way, according to her understanding, could she preserve shreds of her own dignity after all that had happened. Her parents pleaded with her to reconsider, swearing they were ready to do anything for the sake of their grandson. But Melissa remained stubborn. I decided to make one last attempt to reason with Melissa. Taking her hand, I spoke softly. "Melissa, listen. I understand the pain you've been through. Losing a loved one, realizing your mistakes, it's terrible. But the child shouldn't become a hostage to your hatred. You yourself said he's your chance to make things right." Melissa looked at me with tear-filled eyes, but didn't pull away. I continued, "I know you're angry with us, think we've been trying to remake you. But we just wanted to help you find a new purpose in life instead of chasing illusions. Isn't being a good mother to your baby better than raising him in an atmosphere of pain and hatred?" There was silence for a while. Then Melissa burst into tears and hugged me, saying, "I'm sorry, I just lost my way. It hurt so much and was so unfair that everything worked out for you, and I was left with nothing. But you're right, the child can't grow up in hatred. I don't want him to become like me." I stroked her back, letting her cry. It seemed that my words finally awakened her maternal feelings. The parents watched our reconciliation with relief. In the following days, Melissa moved back. We all surrounded her with care and attention, reminding her that she wasn't alone. And soon she gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby. Holding him in her arms, Melissa shone, looking truly happy for the first time in a long time. She vowed to dedicate her life only to him. Of course, not all resentments were forgotten right away. But gradually, seeing what a wonderful mother Melissa was becoming, we all learned to forgive past mistakes. At the request of my sister, I even became the baby's godmother. And later, Melissa met a reliable person and found personal happiness again.